And the good news is that this is also not a black box. It's not like only art that was passed down from a tribe to another tribe. No. And that's what we demystified with Product School. There's a lot of hard skills that you can acquire. There's a lot of frameworks and good practices that you can learn, that you can use to accelerate that learning process. And you don't need to be born a product manager. It's not that you need to be a visionary. I mean, obviously, if you have certain skills you're born with, that's going to help. But most of the skills will need to be acquired through education and hard work.
Hey Carlos, how's it going?
Hey, happy to be live with you.
Just a quick intro about Carlos. So Carlos is basically the founder of and the CEO of ProductSchool, the global leader in product management training. With a background in engineering, Carlos transitioned from being an engineer to the product management world, right? And with some problems that he has faced while he was transitioning, that's where the inception of the product school actually started. And we're going to know we're going to go very deep towards how product school happened and what are some of the things that he's looking into in terms of I would say in terms of the new vision for product managers that are coming in, or the transition towards how product managers need to start thinking about stuff. So that is something that we're going to talk about. And right now, under his leadership, Product School has become a pivotal force in shaping the generations of product managers that are getting built. By the specialized training that Product School gives, and bridging the gap between the business and engineering. So that is what, Carlos, for you. And just to begin with, just to get started with this as a question, Carlos, I was just going through everything that you've been doing, right? I have also been following some of your content, and now considering this is like 10 years of Product School or building Product School, what has been the most significant change in the product management landscape that you have seen?
Yeah, as you mentioned, we are turning 10 years this year. So the main difference is that now people know what product management is. A lot more people know what product management is. There's still a long way to go. But when I started the company, most of the questions from students were like, what is product? And how many companies are out there hiring product managers? What type of background do I need in order to become a product manager? Do I need to know how to code? Do I need an MBA? The role of product has been demystified big time, mostly because a lot of companies in all kinds of industries, in all kinds of locations, already hire many product managers. In fact, there's around 50% of the Fortune 100 companies already have a chief product officer. So this is not just a entry to mid-level role. We're seeing that the product function has a seat at the table with direct report to the CEO. And by the way, in Fortune 100, we're talking about companies in oil and gas, or in telecom, or in consumer packaged goods. So this is not just for high-tech companies in Silicon Valley.
Yeah. So it's like a lot of traditional companies are also sort of, adopting product as one of the functions altogether. And talking about MBAs, right? Would just love to know about how Product School has grown to become, we have seen it has become the global leader in product management training. What do you believe sets your approach apart from traditional education models that are there, like MBA, right? So what is that sets apart Product School as one of the best ways to probably get started with product management in general?
This is based on my own problem. I started this company out of necessity because I've been to business school and I've been to engineering school, and none of them were really optimized for product managers. I'll tell you a quick story about myself. So I'm originally from Spain,
For sure.
Living in Silicon Valley for the last 15 years. I started computer science, and I found myself surrounded by a lot of people who wanted to be software engineers, and that's great. But I was one of the outliers that wanted to leverage technology just in a different way. At that point, I didn't even know what product management was. So my alternative was, well, let me go to business school. Thank God now there are many other options.
True.
And I'll keep it short. You do not need an MBA in order to become a product manager, just in case anybody is wondering.
Is thinking about it,
So
yeah.
at that time, there was no product school. I didn't even know what product was. So I was like, well, let me come to Silicon Valley because I love tech and I want to be closer to my idols. And when I moved here, I realized there were a lot of engineers like myself that were thinking business. So that was really refreshing. And not just engineers, there were many other professionals. The point is that they started talking about product management. I was like, what is that? It seemed like a sweet spot in between engineering and business back in the day. But still, the business school didn't teach me anything about product. There were no classes on product management or UX design or data analytics or any of the digital skills that a lot of us use on a daily basis. So I just continued on my own journey. I started two other companies before product school, and I always found myself kind of learning on the go, building from scratch, and trying to pick some mentors here and there to educate myself on how to build a product that actually users love and are willing to pay for. And so at some point I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to create the school that I wish I had when I was getting started. And that was the original hypothesis. And this is 10 years ago.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of things that the PMs are also doing is like on the go sort of they also learn like, okay, if these are the problems, what are some of the ways to, go and solve on the go in the job itself. And like I usually like go through all your LinkedIn posts, right? And one of the things that I've seen is you like one of the factors that you always talk about in product management is that uh, there's some paradoxes that you highlight, right, in product manager, which is such as chaos or chaos where you need to desire to have predictability, right? Like where the idea is that most of the work that a PM is doing is synthesizing all of this data that they get and then building a business out of it or building a product out of it, right? uh, can you share like just to explain this thesis or what you're trying to say, can you share like an example of what would that situation would look like and maybe a practical uh, approach to how PMs should be thinking about situation where there's a lot of chaos and they need to think about predictability out of that.
Mm-hmm. So one of the beautiful things about living in Silicon Valley is that I got access to learning how some of the best product companies in the world operate. And I'm talking about Google, Meta, Uber, Netflix. They've all have product teams and they have pretty high caliber professionals working on that. And many of the individuals work there, those senior leaders are now instructors in our programs. So a common theme that I saw is that in those organizations, product has a seat at the table. It's truly a strategic partner. It's not just at the end of the process waiting for sales or marketing to sell something and then throw that thing over the fence and hope that the product team is going to build a subpar version of it with engineers and designers and somehow hope for the best, right? So product is in the entire cycle. It's involved in go-to-market. It's obviously involved in the delivery. And that is a key aspect of it. So a lot of companies still treat product as kind of the delivery or the feature team that is just going to push something based on what the sales team sold or overpromised. The other thing that we're seeing is that product teams the world-class product teams tend to be empowered in terms of how to go about solving the problem. So problems, the bigger the problem, the more exciting it is for product people. It's kind of similar to entrepreneurs. Like if you are going to spend a lot of time solving a problem, you better care about that problem and make sure that that problem is big and meaty and not a lot of people know how to crack it. So that is the direct correlation, I think, between the challenge of the problem and the opportunity to solve it. But there are so many ways to go about solving it. And the reality is that a lot of those problems are relatively new, so you don't really know upfront how to go about them. So best product managers that I've seen, best product teams that I've seen, they go for that big challenge and they approach that challenge with an open mind. Obviously, they have hypotheses on how to solve it. They are going to spend time discussing those hypotheses and learning about different angles with customers. They're going to look at data, they're going to talk to the team, they're going to look at market trends, but they're going to place bets on how to do it. And the idea is that those bets are relatively small, so you can test, and then based on the early results, then you can reallocate your portfolio of bets. So at a larger scale, that's exactly how product teams go about their roadmaps or their long-term vision. Yes, there is a vision, there's a strategy, there's some goals associated to that strategy. And then when you break it down into specific initiatives, there are some initiatives that are probably more low risk, low reward, and important because you want to make sure that you are making specific progress. Not everything has to be extremely complex, but they also allocate some bets to something that could 10x the business. And for that, you require certain innovation. And unfortunately, there is no silver bullet that is going to work for everybody.
Right. No, totally makes sense. I think the idea is like pretty simple, is that based on your own business, you're sort of experimenting on either smaller scale and then thinking about like, okay, how do I sort of go and replicate this same solution that is actually giving me returns on top of it? Is something that is sort of the mental model that you're talking about, correct?
Yeah, and the good news is that this is also not a black box. It's not like only art that was passed down from a tribe to another tribe. No, and that's what we demystified with Product School. There is a lot of hard skills that you can acquire. There's a lot of frameworks and good practices that you can learn, that you can use to accelerate that learning process. And you don't need to be born a product manager. It's not that you need to be a visionary. I mean, obviously, if you have certain skills you're born with, that's going to help. But most of the skills will need to be acquired through education and hard work.
Got it. No, totally makes sense. And like, if you have to just give like a quick examples of what are some your favorite sort of, let's say, frameworks that like goes like, okay, these are some of the top ones that I always like sort of sit down whenever goes like, these are like some of my first principles of how I'm thinking about any problem. Like just let's just a follow up on this same question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so first of all, I am a person that tries to meet teams where they are. So we never try to impose a specific framework or book. I say, well, now you need to follow this to the T. But from my own experience, the approach that has worked best for me is to divide and conquer. Something I actually learned in engineering, because a lot of these challenges are very big, as we mentioned before. And if you really try to solve this from the top, it's just going to be very demotivating. Usually the best way to solve these large problems is through multiple iterations, is conquering smaller battles until you win the war. And so dividing and conquering is about breaking down a big problem into specific initiatives, into something that seems a little more doable, that can give you a hint into where to move next, while keeping perspective on what's the end goal.
No, makes sense. And like, like in the last couple of years, and even you have been speaking a lot about the rise of AI in general, even for the talks that you have given in the past year as well. I just wanted to like get a understanding on, like, let's say with the rise of AI and its impact on various industries, right? Like, and how we also talked about, like, it's not just tech-based companies. These are some traditional companies also that are coming in, who are basically adopting the like product first approach with their businesses. Just wanted to understand, like, with the rise of AI and its impact on various industries, how do you foresee the role of product managers evolving in the next 5 to 10 years in general?
Yeah, well, 5 to 10 years are pretty big
number.
horizon, right?
Yeah.
So the short answer is I don't know. Like this is in a way like we are learning as we go, and I think that's awesome because we're privileged, all of us that work in product, to really be those early adopters, and I think the responsibility is to really take advantage of this opportunity, right? To really be an early adopter and start playing with it and see what are the tools out there, what are the specific use cases where you can increase certain outcomes, either because you are growing revenue or because you are reducing cost. And I'm obsessed with this topic. And I'm actually a user. Like we recently launched a program called Artificial Intelligence for Product that is all about empowering product teams to consider introducing Gen AI as part of their product strategy, and what are some of those use cases that they can incorporate right away. So long story short, I think AI, I'm an optimist. I'm bullish on AI. I think it's here to stay. For the record, I was also an optimist on other technologies before, such as blockchain, VR.
Nice.
So take this with a grain of salt, but I think it's my curiosity which allows me to then go for it, and I don't see any downside. If it doesn't work out, then so what? But I think the opportunity cost of not giving this a try is just too high. I think product teams are playing a critical role in this type of transformation or revolution, because it's not just impacting the product team, it's truly impacting the entire company. Like when we work with a lot of Fortune 100 companies, we do training for them, and as they try to identify use cases for AI, it's not just AI use cases for the product team. They're looking at, hey, how can I save money on customer support? How can I save money on content creation? How can I do certain things faster, better, cheaper? Well, you know what? Who is going to do it?
Correct.
Because sometimes the customer success team or customer support is not incentivized to replace themselves. It's usually it's like an independent team, usually product, who is kind of leading the charge in terms of how we can incorporate this opportunity where the company needs it. And to be fair, a lot of these opportunities are about saving cost. So it is true that and we are seeing this in the public markets, many companies that are being rewarded for basically laying people off, for leveraging AI or other ways to save cost. I think where PMs can shine is on using AI to their own benefit. So it's not just about, oh my God, if I learn AI, I'm going to lose my job. It's like, what if you actually become an AI expert and you can rise and you can have a bigger team, or you can have more technology at your disposal so you can make a bigger impact? I think today what we're seeing is not about AI replacing all the humans. I think we're seeing humans who know AI replacing a lot of humans who don't know AI.
Got it. No, totally makes sense. I think as of now, the assistance power is like pretty high with, like if you're leveraging AI in your daily basis, and I totally agree with that, for sure. And with that said, like I think one of the biggest things that you talk about is, product managers to be like super resilient, right. So resilience is a theme in your advice for product managers. Can you share like your own some personal story of being like resilient in your career, or while maybe building product school?
Yeah, and I think part of it is probably having a chip on my shoulder as an immigrant. And not that that's the only way of being resilient, but I'm always looking for resilience or hunger. You can call it however you want, but it's something that I cannot teach. Unfortunately, I wish I could teach that. I actually have kids, and I'm constantly thinking, how can I teach my kids to be hungry, right? And but in any case, I think in product is absolutely critical to feel comfortable with that and know and keep pushing. So if you ask me about a story, related to product school, when I started, I bootstrapped the business for the first 7.5 years.
Awesome.
So I was the instructor, I was the salesperson, I was customer support representative, I was doing it all. And because I really wanted to ensure that the quality of the service or the product was excellent. And I was defining excellence in terms of success of my own students. I wanted to ensure that those students who were investing time and money in their product education were going to be set up for success. They will go out there and get product manager jobs, or for the ones who were existing PMs, they were going to get promotions. And I didn't want to borrow money because I kind of got burnt out from my previous experience as a founder. I did the opposite. I raised venture money, I grew, optimized the wrong metrics, and I kind of didn't want to repeat that path. It was like, let me be the user of my own product. Let me be the product itself and really test this hypothesis. And I mean, I tested it for way too long because, 7.5 years, I had opportunities to raise money in between. But I chose not to because the company has always been profitable, and I'm obsessed with keeping a really high quality bar. And that comes with certain trade-offs, like so the first trade-off is the time that I had to invest. So for the first 2 years, I had no life. Like I literally did everything I could. Maybe I put 80 to 100 hour weeks just to be successful. It didn't always turn out well. Like I ended up in the hospital once, and I think that was a wake-up call for me to realize that, okay, it's good to care about the product. I also need to delegate. I need to empower others so we can build something bigger. But I think those initial moments really set the right tone for whatever came next.
No, that makes sense. That sounds like an entrepreneur for sure. Like, like how you just need to keep going even though things might not be working, or, and like I've seen, like even in past, you have been founding like couple of these, you've founded like couple of companies in the past before ProductSchool, right? So just would love to understand, like, what are some of the things that you would say went wrong in that journey that also obviously added upon the ProductSchool eventually, which could be one, which is you're saying that, first bootstrap it, figure it out, right? And then once you see, like, if you want to scale, then you move towards, venture backed position, right? But what are some of your biggest learning, let's say from the past of being a founder? Would love to understand that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've started 3 companies in my life, all of them in education. First one was a non-profit. The second one was a venture-backed business, and ProductSchool it was bootstrapped for the first 7.5 years. Then we raised some capital, $25 million from a growth equity firm. My biggest learning, especially from my previous company, is I want to do something that I feel very proud of. I want to have my own definition of success and happiness. And I think this is very personal, because I'm not trying to imply, well, success means bootstrapping a business or even starting your own business. But to me, I found myself trapped in the hamster wheel, racing. So I had this idea of creating an education platform, and I started raising capital, and the company was never profitable. So we needed more capital to keep the lights on, and the team was growing and growing. So I found myself spending a lot of time talking with investors and attorneys and other people that never used my product, and also spending less time with my team, especially my engineers, my designers, the people that were building the product. So that was something that I wanted to change for my next venture, the current one. And I basically did the opposite with ProductSchool. I first chose not to raise capital and start at a smaller scale. I also chose to pick just one topic and go as deep as possible. My previous business was trying to fix education, and we were teaching so many different topics. Here I just picked product because that's the one that I cared most about, and I can go as deep as needed. So it's not just for aspiring PMs. There are existing PMs, there are product leaders. There's so many different topics within a specific domain. And I wanted to ensure quality to the maximum, and I also wanted to stay profitable. And those were some personal decisions that I arrived probably based on my previous failed experience as a founder.
Got it. No, that totally makes sense. And like, considering that it has been like a couple of years now, and you have also seen things transitioning in the last 10 years of building ProductSchool, there would have been like companies looking at some kind of experience for someone to hire a product manager, versus now what do you think are the skills and experiences would you recommend let's say product managers to start focusing on? And this is, I'm talking someone who would be in the early stages of their product career, and then we can also talk about how senior PM could basically think about their experience and what others are looking for, and then we'll move on to the other spaces. But let's talk about someone who has started out, is into 2 years of experience. What are some of the things that you would see that they need, or they need to build that skills at this day, your day and time?
Yeah, so two things here. I always tell people who come to us now is this is the second best time in history to build digital products and start your career in product. The best time was yesterday. So if you look at things with perspective, there's never been more companies hiring product managers. There's never been more companies with chief product officers. There's never been more companies that are open to remote work. So all of those are real positive trends that didn't exist 10 years ago. Of course, I'm aware of some of the tech layoffs and how that setback can discourage some people. But if you look at this with perspective, like where we're coming from, what I've seen, where we were 10 years ago, it's an incredible new stage. Yeah, and I believe that 10 years from now, it's going to be even better. Because tech is just not for tech companies, right? Tech is not an industry. Now every company is tech-enabled, at least. So that's number one. And I think a lot of people are like, okay, wow, good. Then there's a lot of others who come and say, well, but you know, I'm 26 or I'm 36. And like, look, how long are you going to be working for your life?
Yeah.
You know, for the next 50 years, 40 years? So it's still so early in your career. So the fact that you didn't get your dream PM job yet, it's normal. Like the fact that you are actually thinking about product in your 30s and that you are investing in your own education, that you are connecting with other product leaders, it's incredible. It's giving you such a head start. You are basically in the top 1% of people that want to become PMs. Like I had no idea about what product management was when I was even 25, you know? So I try to put people in that mindset to fully understand the value of the opportunity ahead of them.
No, sure. I mean, that totally makes sense. But like in terms of, like obviously you would be working with a lot of companies who, would be looking for product managers. And in those cases, what are companies now looking for in general when they are thinking about product management, right? Like, as you said, like this is more mature. There are big companies that have figured out how patterns work, or the way product needs to get built. What are some of the default sort of skills that now it's like, okay, this is the bar that we have seen as a, this is how we think about product management today in our organization, and these are kind of people that we are looking for when we are going to hire a product manager. So that is what I think the nuance I would love to get into.
Let's do it. So let's say product manager 2.0 in there.
Sounds good. Perfect.
1.0 was all about building. It was really all about having a technical background or technical skills, being able to really connect with your engineers and designers and ship the thing on time and quality, which is basically a very much a project management approach. It's a glorified project management approach with just a little bit of strategy.
Yeah.
But Product 2.0, now a lot of these companies have matured. They've realized that old school approach just doesn't fly. Like if you want to hire product managers, just hire project managers. Don't call them product managers and make them believe they're strategic players and they really have any influence on the on the future of the company. Like a product manager 2.0 is much more business oriented. It's someone who's focusing way more on go-to-market. It's really thinking about, okay, what is the business? What is the impact that this is going to have on our business? How is my product going to make more money? Or how is my product going to... It's not just about how it's going to add value to the user. Obviously, you need to add value to the user, but that's table stakes. That adding value to the user is not enough. So the new generation product leaders are focused on adding value and capturing part of that value. And the specific skills related to go-to-market include product launches, pricing, positioning, monetization, growth. So that is the key. Now, how important are the technical skills? Well, way less important these days. Obviously, you need to have an understanding of how technology works and know enough to be dangerous. But the reality is that now the technology is becoming much more visual, especially now with AI. You don't need to know how to code in order to work with engineers. You don't need to know how to run SQL queries in order to get data. So that is what I see that is shifting in this next generation of product leaders.
I'm like so happy at this moment right now because we literally have now a definition to how the whole shift of the mindset that a PM needs to have. And I think with this clip itself, I could just literally tell the difference between how project management is versus what is product management. I think you just nailed the whole answer with that. Considering like now when we are still talking about the product managers, let's say who are senior or also starting out at the same point of time, I think these are some of the basics that goes in. But as you have said about like how the rise of the chief product officer as one of those people that are coming in on the table, right? And there's a role that's basically specifically just for product, right? I just want to understand, like, what do you think about the role? Like, if you have to define the role of the CPO, what would that be? And then what do you think, the responsibilities actually look like for them, right? Like, if you have to define, let's say, a CEO versus a CPO, which we can do it later, but then in general, what do you think are the responsibility and what is the definition to this particular role as of today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now there's a career ladder, which is great. Now we see that it's not just about becoming a product manager, and there is a path forward up to the C-suite. So typically those stages are product manager, senior product manager, which is still an individual contributor role. At that level, next level up, it's usually called group product manager, director of product, VP of product, and then eventually CPO.
Yeah.
I know there's a parallel track for individual contributors, so maybe there's senior PMs that don't want to become group PMs. They can continue as lead PMs or principal PMs. But since you asked me about the CPO ultimately is responsible for business value. It's the person accountable for ensuring that the product strategy is actually driving business outcomes. And what that means is, what is your contribution to the bottom line of this whole product thing? And in many cases, that contribution is measured directly because you are generating revenue through your digital channels. In other cases, that is in partnership with go-to-market teams. But ultimately, I believe that best product teams, especially at the top, like a CPO, needs to be accountable for business outcomes. And obviously, how do they achieve that? Well, they say they have to define that product strategy. They have to define very specific goals so the rest of the teams are fully aware of what is the ultimate goal, and then break it down into other initiatives that are going to contribute to that. But a CPO, especially at a large company, is not building directly with engineers or even with other PMs. So it's mostly in charge, it's treating the whole team as a product. So it's defining the org, right? And like the competency model, like what is it that you need in terms of people, role, responsibilities to make this happen? Who are the players that you want to upskill because they have the potential to contribute to what you need? What are the players that you need to hire because you don't have those specific skills on their team? So you truly become more of a GM than truly a product person. In fact, I would argue that the CPOs that are trying to influence the product too much are probably doing a disservice to what is expected as a C-suite executive.
Got it. No, makes sense. I think someone who is sort of, obviously driving the business, and at the same point of time making sure there's a right team to sort of drive that business is I think how the CPO needs to look at the role in general, right?
And it's so hard.
Yeah.
And I say that also as a founder who loves product and wants to be involved
in the product side.
So we've seen examples of even large companies like Airbnb with the CEO clearly said, I am also the CPO, right? And that can work in many cases. But in general, what we are seeing at other companies, especially the ones who are not in Silicon Valley, right? Like oil and gas, consumer packaged goods, that are already investing a lot in technology and hiring a CPO, they look at that role as truly a business executive, very different than just a technology executive. And that person obviously influences the product, but does it through others. It's not there, in the roadmap reviews, giving feedback on the feature and really imposing a point of view. It's truly about, or it should be about empowering others and just setting the right rules so people can contribute to that vision without requiring the executive to be in the room micromanaging everybody.
No, got it. That totally makes sense. It's like it is also more or less like a counterpart to the CEO as well, where probably this person is sort of taking care of everything that is happening around the company, and then the chief product officer is making sure that the product is contributing towards the business, and like then this whole exec level is sort of moving towards that one vision towards how they want to build the businesses, how I'm looking at it.
Exactly. It's how you want to build the business, not just how do you want to build the product. And it requires a ton of financial acumen because you're looking at the P&L of the business. In many cases, CPOs are also accountable for P&L. They need to fully understand how the entire business works, what are the unit economics, what are the drivers for the business, what's happening in the market, and less so what are the technical specifications in your product.
Got it. That totally makes sense. And like I've always seen some of the posts, and then the articles that are written. You always talk about, how mentors and books have, influenced a lot with, in terms of how you think and, how do you approach about product and stuff. So just wanted to understand, like, do you have any piece of insight or any advice to, let's say, anyone who is watching this podcast today that you have gotten from one of your mentors about product building or in life in general?
Well, that's a big question.
Maybe something also that changed your life, or you always remember or go back to whenever you are.
So one thing that I take to heart is for me to always be learning. It doesn't really matter how big or successful my company is. I am obsessed with being the best version of myself for others and remind myself that it's not about my own productivity. It's like it's really empowering others, and the way I show up to a certain meeting, the way I communicate a message can make a big impact. So I try to invest in myself so I can be the best service to others, and that involves more of a holistic approach of nutrition, sleep, fitness, healthy habits, and of course knowledge through different sources. In my case, I like to work with a coach. I'm part of a CEO peer group. I try to recruit executives who are better than me at the different functions that they operate, but basically try not to forget about myself, because that's something that I did, especially the early days in my company, and it took me to the hospital. So I need to be I'm trying to be more proactive about taking care of myself so I can take care of others.
That is like super important for sure. Like, taking care of yourself is more important than, like once you are good, you can always take care of the other things as well. And like yesterday and like a couple of days back, I was, going through a couple of your videos. One of them was also talking about, economic uncertainty. In the times of economic uncertainty, the best products basically win, right? And firsthand, like myself being like the product person and also founder, right, I can totally see how that is important. Like even if you have the best distribution, I think this is what you said, right? Like even if you have like the best distribution or marketing or whatever, it at the end of the day, the product is something that will help you to retain and build the business out of it. Just wanted, like, if you have to like share, like talking about this this whole point of view of how economic uncertainty, in the times of economic uncertainty, the best products win, what would that be? Like, how would you define this thing? I totally get it in terms of, because I'm also going through the same stuff. So just wanted to understand from you in a more formalized way of how you think about this thing.
Yeah, thank you. Because sometimes social media posts can be misunderstood, especially if it's just a headline.
Yes.
So what I mean by this statement is that in times of economic uncertainty, customers, buyers, they look harder at where they are spending their money. So you cannot fake an excellent customer experience. If you want your customers to renew the usage of your product, they need to have some value. Maybe the first time you can sell it, you can spin it, but ultimately, if you are looking at your budget, you want to ensure that that person is getting enough value. So good thing about product is that it's not an either or decision. Product, first of all, yes, has to deliver value to the user in a massive way, hopefully. And product is an incredible distribution channel, a very cost-effective distribution channel. So I want people to think of product as, yes, you have to build something that users love. And yes, you can also leverage your own product to increase revenue, because and there are just very different use cases, right? So one obvious one is the retention. So if you have something that people love and they are getting enough value, you're probably going to keep paying for it because the value is higher than the price. But if the value is really that much higher than the price, maybe there are also opportunities to upgrade those users because the equation still works.
Correct.
But also, if you think about a product in terms of distribution, you can leverage happy customers to bring net new customers. Just not just because they have an economic incentive, maybe, but even if they don't have an economic incentive, they'll be proud and happy to share something that works for them. They want because they want to help their peers. So I only see benefits in that, and that's why I am a big advocate of elevating the product outside just the tech kind of business unit and really connect it between tech and business. It's only when you treat product at the highest level when you can see the best economic impact for your business.
Cool. No, that totally makes sense for sure. All right. So with that said, I think we are into the last point of some of the questions that I've created for you. This is like this section. It will be like more of a quick rapid fire. So would love you to like quickly answer some of these questions. So it is going to be fun. So let's begin with this one. So this is again gonna be super difficult probably, but let's see. So Spain or US for the best food?
Spain, of course.
For sure. One word to describe your first day in US.
Scary.
Okay. The first product you ever built was a hit or a miss?
It was a miss.
According to you. Okay. Got it. The book that you have gifted the most to everyone?
Oh, my book. It's called the product book. So I ordered a bunch of copies. Always like to give it to people. That was a softball.
For sure. All right. So coffee meetings or Zoom calls?
Zoom calls.
Okay. One tech tool you can't live without?
My phone.
Okay. For sure. One habit you have picked up since starting product school?
Waking up early, workout.
All right. That's pretty good. And then this is gonna be a tough one. Let's see how would you talk about this. So one city you wish to host ProductCon in?
Well, we do it in San Francisco, New York, and London every year.
Yeah. But any new one that you wish like, okay, I would love to do more of there?
I'm going to give you two. Love to either do it in Latin America, maybe Sao Paulo, or maybe in Asia, Singapore.
Okay, perfect. And this is the last one. The last product that you've used that made you go wow?
This one, this whoop band that I wear every day.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. That was pretty amazing. I think a lot of questions have been answered. There's like a lot of, um, you know, I would say there were like a lot of questions that I had personally. I think I would say it was more of me sort of coming and questioning and getting the chance to talk to you and basically just reframe some of those questions over there. So yeah, thanks for joining in and hope you enjoyed the show. Like, what do you think about it?
Thank you. Big fan of product people, content creators, and leveraging these type of platforms to hopefully inspire others to build better products. So thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Pleasure is all mine. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining in, and thank you audience to joining in, and see you in the next podcast. Till then, bye bye.